outside UNC's Keenan Memorial Stadium. I'm Inside Carolina's Ross Martin, joined by Inside Carolina beat writer Adam Smith. The Tar Heels defeat Florida A&M on Saturday, 56-24. We just talked to Mack Brown for about 35 minutes. Got Phil Longo and defensive coordinator Gene Chizik. Adam, sitting here ahead of the App State game. Your general takeaways on where UNC is right now heading into this App State game?
Well, I think there's it's exciting, isn't it? App State week. I'm looking forward to this, and I know you are. I know a lot of the Tar Heel Nation is. I'm sure App State Nation is too. But I mean, I think there's things to like, and obviously things you need to improve if you're UNC, and that's sort of what we went over today with Mack and Phil and Gene, and there's some things that. You feel positive that you can build on. Drake Maye's performance, the freshman running backs, Omarion Hampton and George Pettaway. UNC didn't give up any sacks to Florida A&M, and they played a lot of players. And defensively, there were, Mack and Gene were talking about they like the 3 sacks that the defense came up with, but there are also some areas to address there. I know Gene made the comment, there were some mistakes, and then he stopped when he said mistakes, and he said, well, let's call them teaching points. Yeah. So I think that's how UNC is looking at it after 1 week and 1 game.
And that's the beauty of a Week 0 game. You get your feet wet. You get to run through a lot of players. You get to see what works, what doesn't work. On offense, Phil Longo talked extensively about Drake Maye's performance, as did Mack Brown. Drake Maye needs to maybe work on his footwork a little bit, maybe go through his progressions a little more to hit the right players at the right time. Any other takeaways on Drake Maye and what maybe Mack Brown or Longo said about him?
I thought what both guys said about Drake was interesting. Mack sort of took it from a wider perspective, and we asked, what types of things do you think Drake needs to hear from you coming off a first start where you throw 5 touchdown passes and throw for 294 yards? And he said, just be yourself, which, it was sort of the wide view. And Phil Longo got into some more, sort of the teaching points, the finer points on things. And he was talking about Drake maybe having some happy feet in the pocket early on, which is understandable. Your first college start, and you're a redshirt freshman. And Mack made the comment that of all the passes that Drake completed, he thought that there were 3 that he missed on that he sort of has talked about more as they've gone through the film and assessed it and everything.
Of course, that's what you like out of a young quarterback, to know what you did right, but also know what you did wrong. I thought another thing Longo made a point to talk about was his running, that he's a lot more mobile than people think. He showed that, and even when I asked him about things that Drake did well or not well, he kept talking about how mobile he is. They're going to put him out on some bootlegs, some naked bootlegs, and they're moving him around the pocket more than they did with Sam. And his ability to run and scamper downfield like a deer, I thought was very impressive. On defense, Chizik, we asked him about the secondary areas of improvement and some standout players. Your general takeaways on Chizik's time with the media and areas of this defense, which gave up a lot of yards in the first half, needs to improve on heading into the showdown with the Mountaineers.
Well, I think Gene is trying to take a patient approach here. There's been 1 game in a new defensive system. He's calling plays again for the first time in 5 years. I think you have to take a patient approach. I think freaking out and going crazy probably wouldn't be the most productive thing.
Yeah, and I said changes, and he corrected me and said not changes, slight adjustments and teaching moments to get them to know what they did wrong, not changing big things.
And they liked Dante Balfour back there in the defensive backfield. They like DeAndre Boykins, I think, played 68 plays, and Mack and Gene were both talking about, they weren't expecting to put that many plays on a young player, like Boykins. But Tony Grimes goes down 8 plays into the game, and so you had to call on Storm Duck more. You had to call on Dante Balfour more. You had to call on DeAndre Boykins more, and they thought that those guys sort of stepped up to the moment. I mean, like we mentioned, there are things that they want to improve and address, and you get the sense from Gene and Mack that they feel like they can improve and address some of those things. And App State in Boone certainly will be a bigger test than you would think than Florida A&M here in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, that's a nice transition. Obviously putting Florida A&M to bed now, moving into App. Briefly here, it's Mack Brown returning to the mountains. He's a Linville resident, wants to retire in Linville. He said he loves the mountain people, loves the golfing and the fishing. And his job, transition from starting there, getting there, and then leaving. Your takeaways on what this game, from a broad standpoint, means to him, means to UNC, and means to App.
I think it's going to be just so much fun. I am just so looking forward to it. We have friends up there, obviously, Ross, you and I, at App State. I'm just looking forward to getting up there and seeing this thing. I've been fortunate enough as a younger man to cover some games in Boone, and it's such a great atmosphere up there. Black Saturdays, the game days at Kid Brewer Stadium. But, I mean, you know, this matchup, we were mentioning before we came out here what the line is moving. The line is moving on the matchup where UNC was favored when it first came out. Now App State may be a slight favorite, but you know,
which is wild. Like UNC is a dog going into a game at Boone. It's going to be a tough environment there, but just the difference in those two programs. But UNC is not favored, which is crazy.
Mack pointed out Carolina didn't win a game on the road last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that was an interesting point. But you were talking about Mack sort of, you know, taking us back in time today. You know, he was talking about the mountains, fishing, Winnebagos.
Yeah.
You know, the first Mack Brown's first ever taste of head coaching was one season at App State in 1983. He had been at LSU. He had been at Iowa State. He goes to App State, and he only spends 1 year. He leaves for that to go to be Barry Switzer's offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. So it was, I mean, you know how Mack can spin a story.
Yeah.
It was quite a fun look back. I thought he was talking about just the different things with the program, and they went and played Wake Forest in their first game in 1983, and what that was like. He was having nightmares the night before about uniform combinations. I thought it was good fun here, Ross. I don't know.
Yeah, and he was very. He praised the Appalachian State program. 3 national titles at FCS level, dominant. They've won 9 or 10 games, which is the norm for them, as he said. It's one of the best college football programs in the nation. So, you know, he's setting the stage for this big thing and definitely laying on thick for the Mountaineers. It should be an interesting contest. The very different types of fans and fan bases, though, probably have some in common as well. We're looking forward to getting up there as the bell tolls here in Chapel Hill.
You can hear it
on the campus of UNC. We talked to Mack, we talked to Phil Longo and Gene Chizik. For Inside Carolina, I'm Ross Martin, joined by Adam Smith.